welcome to our virtual cafe. We've created a space to provide inspiration, to help others and to spread some hope during these difficult times. Thanks again for giving up your time today to come and speak with us. So Jamie, you're the founder of ThisWay UK. It's an employee support service primarily for people facing redundancy, which it's no surprise to us that 2020 saw the highest figures so far for that. You've worked with companies such as the BBC and Immediate Media. You've got over 15 years of experience. It'd be great to hear how you first kicked off your business.
Sure, no problem. Thanks for having me, guys. So I was with Immediate Media, which is one of the UK's largest consumer magazine companies, for the last 10 years. And throughout that time, whenever we've had to make people redundant, we'd restructured, bought a business and moved things around. In my role as head of recruitment, one of the things that I did was go in and talk to people facing redundancy and really give them some practical advice on, next steps. I'm very aware that when you have worked with a company, you have structure, and then suddenly to be made redundant, yes, you might be given a little bit of money, but to lose that structure is one of the most unsettling things. And so my workshops were very much about helping those people, giving them the tools that they needed to be a success and to help position themselves in the right way from day one. And for the last few years, this is something that I've wanted to, this is a great workshop, I get great feedback, but it's only available to people connected with Immediate Media. And really, it would be great to offer this workshop wider to other people who are facing redundancy. And there's a few employment support companies out there. I've heard very mixed things in my experience. We've used a few, and they're very broad. They don't give you the tools that you really need. And I thought, well, I want to do this. I want to launch. So I, after 2 years of negotiating, I left Immediate Media in the summer of last year, stayed to help them oversee the redundancies they were making, and then I launched ThisWay on the 1st of October 2020. What kind of lunatic launches business? Yeah, exactly. But for me, given the coronavirus and the number of people that have been impacted in 2020, for me, actually, I thought this is probably a very good time, because there are a lot of people out there that really want and need that support. So for me, I went solo, launched 1st of October, and the last few months for me have been, it's been interesting. My business plan has changed a little bit. My offering has changed as I've spoken to more and more companies. But what's been amazing really has been the number of companies out there that are receptive, that want to help their staff. No one wants to make people redundant, especially not at the moment. Redundancies are inevitable, unfortunately. But this year, it's obviously the coronavirus has impacted the economy in such a way that many companies, they can't open the doors, and they're making redundancies to stay afloat, and it's their people that are being affected. And honestly, these companies don't want to make redundancies, but they're forced to by the economic situation they're in. And what's been really, really heartening for me is the number of companies out there that want to offer support to their employees who are leaving. People really are beginning to understand the impact of mental health on individuals, and they want people to leave well.
Yeah, it's been a really tough time, and I think what you've done is really inspirational, and to have something that can really support people at that really difficult time is so amazing. And I think a lot of people are struggling to find companies like yourself to give them that support. So I think you've got something really unique there, but it's not only about the money and about that success of it, but it's actually genuinely helping people to support them at that difficult time.
Yeah.
You touched on that employees now seem to be thinking more about the mental health and giving more support to their staff. What was your kind of moment of inspiration last year when you were, having contacts with different companies?
Well, for me, it was just seeing you know, the company that I worked for, Immediate Media, it was interesting seeing the kind of things they were prepared to offer their staff. You know, there are companies that are out there that just say, you know, thank you very much, goodbye. You know, you saw a lot of negative things in the press. For example, there were a few massive airlines I'm not going to name that were just going to let people go via text message, and you know, and there were a lot of companies that made use of the furlough scheme and just, you know, that were paying people, you know, they're taking the government money and paying them that base. For me, what was really quite inspirational was having spoken to a lot of businesses. There were quite a few companies that out there that were topping up the furlough scheme to the 80%, which was really nice to see, because you know there are a lot of people out there that've got, you know, families that depend on them and whatnot, and yet, you know, the company, you know, a lot of people were furloughed, as we know, but there were a lot of companies that were prepared to top up that salary of those individuals to the 80%, so they weren't just being paid the minimum. For me, that was a, you know, really quite inspirational to see that companies, you know, at that point really beginning to care about people. And then as it went through the inevitable restructures and whatnot, the fact that, you know, as I've said, companies, you know, want to offer support but just don't know where to go to. You know, it says a lot about, you know, the country that we live in and the communities around us.
So, do you have any tips or tools or any advice you can give to anyone in this situation that's obviously going through it, what they should be doing, what they can be doing in the future as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So you know, two parts really. For companies that are making staff redundant, you know, there's a lot of things that you can do for your staff, from, you know, pointing in the direction of financial advice, to companies like myself, you know, and we can help prepare your staff. For me, you know, I think it's my biggest piece of advice for anyone who's facing redundancy is don't be afraid to ask for advice and don't be afraid to ask for help. There's a lot of groups on LinkedIn, for example, Open to Work, where, you know, don't be afraid to say, you know, my network, how can you help me? Because people like helping people. For me, going into a bit more detail is that, you know, there's what is great to see out there is there are jobs out there. There's a lot of companies that are still hiring as people have become accustomed to working from home, and more and more companies are digital first as well, which means there are still opportunities out there and there are still vacancies. The other flip side of the coronavirus is that more and more people are now working from home. It's more and more commonplace, which means previously you were restricted to opportunities and jobs where you lived. You know, if you lived in Donington, you could only get a job in Donington. In London, you're only restricted to London. Now, with home working, you can work anywhere as long as you're eligible to work in that country.
Very true.
You can work anywhere in the UK. So on the one hand, that creates a lot more opportunities for you. The flip side, of course, is that it makes it far more competitive. With that in mind, it's really, really important that you understand, you know, from day one what your CV is. You know, I speak to a lot of people out there who will do a search for vacancies, and they'll see 100 vacancies out there, and they'll think, oh, I've got to apply for 100 jobs. Send my CV, send my CV, send my CV, and they'll get to the end of that day and they'll send 100 CVs, and they'll think, phew, job done. That's amazing. For me, that's a grave mistake, because you know, bearing in mind how competitive it is out there, it's far better to send one perfect CV to one job than 100 bad, you know, applications, bad CVs. And my biggest kind of piece of advice is remember that with your CV, it's a marketing tool. Ultimately, it's there to serve as a marketing tool for you. You know, and I think if you treat your CV like a car logbook, in which it's just got a list of every job you've ever had, you're harming your opportunity, your chances of getting a job. Treat your CV like a marketing tool. Do it properly, do it well. You will increase the chance for you getting that job or getting an interview infinitely.
Yeah, and I think that's key as well, because I think what a lot of people don't realise, and they forget because they've been doing a job so long, is that they're actually, at that moment when you're doing a CV, you're a product, you're selling yourself.
Yeah.
So you really need to put out things like your unique selling points, and it sounds
All your skills, yeah.
Yeah. And I think it, you know, when you get to that stage of redundancy, or you're thinking about doing a CV, it's almost like you need to step back. And like you say, doing one good application rather than sending off hundreds and then not getting a response back. I mean, it's so disheartening, isn't it?
The other thing as well, it's not just about the CV, it's about that cover letter, that application. You know, a lot of people just copy and paste. You know, they don't want to do a cover letter, they just want to upload that CV that they've done. And you know, my advice would be is that's not the approach to take. And you know, a lot of people don't know how to write a CV. You know, why would you? A lot of people did a CV 20 years ago and they haven't done a CV since. And so for me, you know, whilst the companies that tend to engage with me are companies that are making redundancies and want me to go in and talk to their staff, you know, which is great. And I'm talking to a lot of people that way. There's a lot of people that haven't had that advice and that support. And for me, given the year that we've had, I think it's important to give back. It's important to support people, which is why ThisWay we run free CV workshops at least once every 6 weeks. And so therefore, if you're out there and you're in a situation where you've been made redundant or you're unemployed and you're thinking, you know, right, I want to work, but you know, how do I do that? Feel free to sign up, attend my, you know, free workshop, and I'll, you know, spend an hour and I'll give you some hints and tips about your CV, what stands out. You know, in my experience over the last 10 years, I must have, my teams between us, we must have looked at well over 80,000. We've interviewed well over 80,000 people. Wow. So, you know, we're probably seeing, you know, close to 1 million CVs between us in that time. You know, we know what jumps out, we know what stands out from the crowd, and not only that, I've trained a lot of hiring managers as well on what stands out from a CV, what stands out from an application, and you know, how to interview people. So come along, it's free, completely free, and feel free to grab some hints and tips to help your CV, help your application stand out from the crowd.
So we'll try add all your contact details as well on the page and to our YouTube channel, so everyone can access you and know where to look for you, because I think it's really important what you're doing, and there's so many people out there that definitely need your help. And I think, like you said, when you hear the word redundancy, you just start panicking, and I guess you're helpless at that time. So, but there's no need to be helpless because you're here to save everyone.
And I think that's the important thing, isn't it? It's yeah, okay, there's that initial shock and that initial response of being scared, but actually there are things out there to support you, and you know, your workshop it's a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a lot of things out there. There's a lot of people who want to help. There's a lot of advice out there. You know, redundancy is not a dirty word anymore. And redundancy can actually be a massive opportunity. Just make sure you approach it in the right way. Don't be embarrassed, and you know, ask for advice.
Yeah, and I guess if anyone's watching, good luck, and
absolutely,
yeah, do reach out, and we'll put information up to Jamie's workshop. So yeah, good luck, and thanks for your time, Jamie.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Monique. Thank you, Michelle.